Welcome to Mission Imperfect, the podcast about finding your own path, your own way, and embracing the imperfection of the journey.
We're your hosts, life coaches, former HR professionals, and mums, Kirsty and Catherine.
We love to discuss the topics that come up time and time again for our coaching clients and which affect us all, from things like acceptance and boundaries to values and well-being and everything in between.
Each episode ends with a question for you and us to reflect on. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to grab a cuppa and a biscuit and join us in getting lost in finding ourselves.
Welcome to this week's episode of Mission Imperfect. Today, we are going to talk a little bit more about life coaching because we have done an episode so far, realised we have quite a lot to say on this topic. We should hope so, with us both being life coaches. So, this week, we're going to talk a little bit about, is life coaching for me?
Ooh.
So, Kirsty, over to you.
Well, it's definitely for me. Yes. Is that the end of the episode? Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people, as we said in the previous episode on life coaching, aren't really sure what coaching is. But then the next question is, well, how would I benefit from it? Am I somebody who can use it? And I think the honest answer is that just about anyone can benefit from coaching at some stage and in some way. And it's an incredibly powerful tool that you can use in a huge range of contexts and situations for all sorts of different, desired outcomes and goals, or even to understand what it is that you want to have happen in your life, how you want your life to be different. But that is pretty broad, really, isn't it? as an
Yes,
answer. So,
everyone
so
at some point.
yeah, yeah. End of episode. 5 minutes. Thanks for your time. We are done. But so let's try and narrow that down a little bit to give you some examples of situations in which you might find coaching useful. So I would start with if you are feeling stuck in life, or it sounds as if it's almost the opposite, but I think they're very similar things, stuck or adrift, kind of either you are just stuck somewhere not moving anywhere, or you're adrift in that everything is happening to you and you have no control. It's not within your power to determine put my teeth in, to determine what's happening to you. And as a result of that, you're feeling very uncertain about next steps, what you can do, how you would even start to do it, whether it's the right thing to do. It's for you if you know that you want to make a change, but you feel overwhelmed and unsure how to begin. If you going back to the idea of being adrift, it's if you actually want to start taking a bit more control of your own life, of how you show up in and experience your own life. A nice metaphor is being in the driver's seat rather than the passenger seat. Or if you want to stop, basically leaning out the emergency exit the whole time. You know, you want to take control of the next stage of your life, your next life chapter, as we've talked about in previous episodes. Ready to take ownership of growth and success and the whole what next piece. And it's for you if you feel that you don't really know who you are or what you want anymore. And I certainly expect so many people have that sense, particularly as you're getting older. You kind of look in the mirror one day and you think, I don't even recognize who I am anymore. That sense of having lost touch with that core sense of yourself and what you really want out of life. And it's for you if you can simply benefit from a safe space to be able to dump whatever's in your head and have a good old rummage through it without worrying about it upsetting or offending the other person or somehow changing your relationship with them maybe thinking about you differently, thinking less of you in some way. Just that space to be completely honest about what's in your head and finding different ways of looking at it and dealing with it.
Yeah, I think that space for time for you is just so cathartic. And with there being no other sort of agenda or concern, like exactly as you
Mm.
said, there's no need to worry about what another person thinks about it, what their reaction to it might be, because in the nicest possible way, they don't matter. They don't feature in your life. They don't have a vested interest. Obviously, they want good things for you. I think all coaches do, but from that kind of distance. And I think that creates real safety
Yeah.
for clients to be able to do that. And it's not always the dramatic stuff, is it? Because that's, I think,
Mm.
we might have talked a bit about this in our first episode when we were trying to bust some myths. It's not always about grand things like, shall I change career at this stage in my life? Is it too late? That those kinds of thoughts where coaching is absolutely valid, but it doesn't have to be that. It can sometimes just be that low level, almost like that hum in the background,
Yeah.
frustration of something that's just not being quite right. And you can't even necessarily pinpoint what it is. You might just feel like you're going through the motions, you're a bit on autopilot. We've mentioned that before. And it just doesn't feel like it's yours or your choices or for you, perhaps anymore. Things have perhaps changed in your life. Like you just said, you might look
Mm.
in the mirror and think, who am I anymore? Things have moved and perhaps I haven't. And I want things to be different. And I think it's that uncertainty that maybe prevents people from engaging in coaching because they think, I don't know what I'm going to say. It's like, don't worry. That's kind
Mm.
of the whole point.
Yeah. I have definitely had sessions with people where they sort of go, now I'm here, I don't really know what I want to say, I don't know where to start. And just giving people the space to, the freedom to not know where to start and to sit with
Yeah.
it and wait until, because something will come up. It's
Yeah.
like journaling. If you're sat there with a pen and a piece of paper and you write, I don't know where to start, something else will come up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it may
Absolutely
not be
will.
what you're expecting. You may not understand why it's come up, but it will be a starting point and it will have value and significance.
Yeah. And feeling stuck isn't failure. I think sometimes people think that's it's some kind of shortcoming of mine that I feel this way, that I feel stuck, but it isn't failure. It's
Mm.
feedback. And
Yes.
coaching can help you listen to what that feedback is trying to tell you,
I love
because there'll be
that so
something
much.
in it
Yes.
that you will be able to unpick and find something from. So I think,
Yeah.
don't think of it as failure, think of it as information.
Absolutely. I think we've said in previous episodes, it's that sort of sense of having made a mistake or having failed. That's how we learn. That's how we build success.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what coaching offers. I think we've kind of explained, I hope, why it might be useful in what kind of context. But what does coaching actually involve? And perhaps we'll dive into this a little bit more. Maybe do a sort of what's inside a coaching session. But really, it's kind of an opportunity to have a sounding board, and there's
Mm.
perhaps a little bit of structure there. So it's not just you venting for perhaps an hour at a time, but you may find that that's helpful for part of it. But there will be some focused reflection there. What does it actually mean? Where's that venting coming from? What's it
Yeah.
telling you? Going back to that idea of the feedback.
And what are you going to do next? What are you going to do about it? That will be an important part of it too. And it doesn't have to be an answer there and then.
Mm.
Yeah. So sounding board, and it is so good at helping you to find clarity. Just getting that stuff out of your head and going through it and looking at what's really going on beneath it, having the time to do that, the space to do that, without somebody else telling you what to do or how to fix it or what they think.
Yeah, and it gives you a bit of perspective. You're perhaps going to zoom out a little bit and see the bigger picture rather
Yeah.
than, sometimes when you're so close, say you can't see the wood for the trees. Isn't that the phrase when you're so close to something? And you
Yeah,
might,
when it's all stuck in your head in that dark little
yeah,
space, when you actually let it out into the light, it can immediately seem quite different.
yeah, and you can see what's been hiding in plain sight.
Yeah. And coaching can offer a challenge in the nicest possible way, unless, of course, you
Mm.
want a more unpleasant sort of way, in which case coaches will oblige. But it's a challenge to your own thinking. And I think we said in the last episode on coaching, yeah, there's a lot of asking of questions, and that's not to imply that the client is wrong about what they're thinking or saying or feeling. Far from it. It's just to provide that little bit of challenge. Is that true? Does it have to be true? Is it the only way of seeing it? And whatever answer is given is a valid answer. It's not about, it's not a challenge to persuade somebody into something else. It's a challenge to help them see it from every angle and to understand it and explore it in the best way possible.
Yeah. And it's about giving, for want of a better word, permission, I suppose, in a way of that, you're allowed to want more, you're allowed to change your mind, you're allowed to start again, you're allowed to just
Yes.
try something new, try something different, try again, choose again. As I said before, is one of my favorite phrases. If we don't have to nail something the first time, we can later on hopefully choose again. But we need to actually identify that, oh, I'm allowed to do this for myself. It took me a long time to realize I was allowed to do that in terms of changing my profession. I think I've said that before.
Absolutely. That whole thing of changing your mind, choosing again, and perhaps even more so wanting more, that can feel very frowned upon. And and that makes it difficult to admit to. But we're all allowed to want more, to want things to be different.
Yeah.
And coaching can simply offer a breathing space, a space to focus on yourself and your well-being and your wants and needs. Um, because in busy lives, there is so much busyness going on, so much doing. We don't often get a chance to really do that. And
Yeah.
it matters. It makes a difference, right?
Yeah. So I think just to put a little caveat in here is, and it probably isn't going to be for people who want to be told what to do,
No, no, it's
or
not.
perhaps are looking for something a little bit different, perhaps something that's more suited to therapy or counseling, perhaps delving into the past and looking for some deeper emotional healing or trauma work. There might be other means that are more appropriate, but a discussion with a coach should hopefully highlight if that's the case.
Yes.
But in to be honest, I think those are probably the only real definite cases where I think coaching is probably not helpful. I think it is unbelievably helpful in most other circumstances and in the context of all the things that we've discussed.
Hmm.
So, how might people know if it's the right time for them to try coaching? Because I think we said in the first episode, it's not about having a codependent forevermore relationship. It's something to perhaps experience and benefit from and maybe revisit again in the future if the time was right. So, how do you know if the time is right?
Ooh, excellent
Um,
question.
so, we thought some of these things might feel a bit familiar. So, you might be thinking yourself around in circles and ending up back where you started, or at least no further forward. That might feel very familiar. Um,
Definitely is.
yeah, you might feel indecisive, unsure, or just unclear about what it is that you want, let alone how to get it. But you might recognize that maintaining the current status quo just isn't working for you anymore. Even if you don't know exactly what it is you want, it could be that you've outgrown something in your life. Like you've still got what you had maybe in your
Yeah.
20s or in your 30s, but it doesn't feel like it's quite a right fit anymore. So it could be a role, a routine, a way of living, or all of those
Mm.
things. Obviously,
Yeah.
there aren't rules with life coaching of what is in the mix and what isn't. And the beautiful thing is sometimes more comes into the mix or different things come into the mix than what you were expecting.
Yes. I mean, just that sense that something has to change, around, I mean, we've talked about this already in the episode, but that this sense of feeling stuck or trapped or lost somehow. Um, if you find yourself thinking things like, surely there's more to life than this, that
Yeah.
is a big flashing neon sign that coaching could help you. And we've emphasized that it can be about, in inverted commas, the smaller stuff, but it can be about the bigger stuff too, can't it? Um, so it can be about just navigating life on a daily basis, which is what we like to talk about in this podcast, because that can be tough, but it can also be about the really big stuff. It can be about setting big personal or professional goals. It can be about making big changes in your life. It works at all levels. So if you
Yeah.
want, if you have that sense that, okay, I want to change my job, In fact, I want to change my whole way of working. I want to start my business, so I want to go back into employment from business. I want to find a new relationship. I want to move to the other side of the world, or just I'm feeling stuck. All of those,
Yeah.
I want something. Coaching could be the right way of finding out exactly what it is you want and how you can go about getting it.
Yeah. Or you might be feeling that you're doing all the things, but you don't feel satisfied, purposeful,
Mm.
or that perhaps you feel that you're constantly busy, but nothing's really changing or happening the way that you would want it to. You might be saying things like, oh, I'll figure this out soon enough, but soon never seems to actually come. Because I think a lot of people think I should figure this out on my own. It's
Yes.
my life. And we're told, we make our choices and all of these things. But it's not to say that it's easy. Just because things might appear to be simple doesn't actually mean that they are easy.
No.
Um, and coaching is definitely a way just to help you explore what these things might mean for you and then what you can do about it. And it's not to say that coaching can actually be very proactive. It's not just as a sort of last resort. I haven't managed to solve this on my own, so I better reach out for a coach. I did actually have someone say to me once, I'm a bit embarrassed to
Mm.
say that I want to
Yeah.
work with a coach. And I didn't take it at all personally. I kind of understood the sentiment of what she was trying to say. Like, I thought I could figure this out, and I haven't been able to. Um, but what I would say to that, there is no, I must be struggling X amount to justify this for me. There is no sort of threshold for that for coaching. In
No.
fact, it can be the opposite. I think you said beautifully last time, Kirsty, something like things can be good and you want them to be even better. Why not?
Yes.
As opposed to bad and get better.
Yeah. And, that there are a lot of very successful people who have coaches, not necessarily because they are using a coach to achieve success, they've already got it, but maybe because everybody has issues in life, everybody struggles with life, and having support in dealing with that, support in better understanding yourself and your options and what you want and how to get it is invaluable.
Yeah. So I think if we were to sum up who coaching was really for, we would
Hmm.
say you don't have to be in a crisis. You
Nope.
don't need to be super self aware or woo spiritual. You don't need to have clear or smart goals.
No, no.
It's for anyone really who wants to be more intentional, who wants to feel more aligned with themselves and how they live. It's for those who want to stop putting off things that they say matter, but don't somehow find the means or the way or the time to do it.
Mm.
And for those who want to be successful, but successful on the terms that they have defined matter to them.
Yes.
Um, and it's for those who are ready to explore, even if they don't know quite what they're going to find.
Oh, yes.
Um, and it's like I think we spoke a little bit about this before. It's a bit like having a personal trainer for your brain and for your goals and for what next. So you will still be doing the work, but you
Oh,
don't have
yes.
to do it alone. Yeah.
Absolutely. The coach cannot do this work for you. And I think that's an important point to make. Not only will they not tell you what to do, but they can't make it happen for you. You have to want to do the work.
Mm.
And that's why, in my view, trying to sort of do a hard sell to potential clients will never work because you have to be working with somebody who wants to put in the work and to make things different for themselves.
Yeah. So hopefully that's given everyone a bit of insight as to who may benefit from coaching and when the timing may be right. Let's just share a couple of quotes. There are many around on coaching.
Yeah.
Particularly like this one from Emma Louise Elsie, who says, coaching helps you to take responsibility for your life, let go of what others think, and become your true self. It's about you creating the life that you want and deserve, which I think is a really
Yes.
nice way of summing up what life
Beautifully
coaching
said.
is all about.
Hmm. Yeah, and going back to the idea that, the rich and famous and successful have coaches, Oprah Winfrey has talked about having a coach. And, the self-help guru, who would have thought, right? Oprah
Mm,
Winfrey has a coach. And she says coaching helps you stop the crazy mind chatter in your head that tells you all the time that you're not good enough.
Yeah, love that. And this from C.S. Lewis, I particularly like as well, is that you are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream.
Yeah, isn't that lovely? And the one I meant, I had another one from another famous person who uses a coach when, Hugh Jackman. And he says that the best have coaches because the coach can see what you can't see because you're in the forest, they're outside of it, which goes back
Yeah.
to your point about not being able to
Oh,
see
yeah,
the
wood for the trees.
trees.
Yes, exactly. We can all be too close to our own stuff, basically. I think it's the moral of the story there.
Yeah.
So we have a question, as we usually do. This time we will answer it about life coaching, and it's about something that you have perhaps been thinking about for a long time, but haven't acted on it yet. Now, I appreciate I've slightly not cheated, but this was something that I didn't do for a really long time, but now I have just done it. And that is to set targets for
Oh,
myself. And it's funny, I don't know if it's just something I was actively avoiding, but I have set them for the first time this financial year. And I think perhaps it's something to
congratulations.
do with the fact that I know I'm okay with them just being in existence. I've set them. I don't have to share them, don't have to tell anyone, don't have to admit to whether I reach them or not. But maybe it's the fact that I'm actually okay with what my outcome is against them. They are just there. Um, who knows? Maybe I'll even exceed them. It's just data. It is not a definition of perhaps who I am. And I wonder if it's taken me a while to accept that that is my thoughts around targets, or it has evolved. Or maybe I just didn't feel the need to before. I'm experimenting, as I said probably in previous episodes, about taking slightly messy action in a certain
Hmm.
direction. It is something that I've decided to do this year. So I shall just see how I go. It if I hate them, perhaps I just won't do them again. So
You can choose again,
yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly. What about you, Kirsty?
Oh, I like that. Well, the answer that came up for me, and initially I thought, oh, I don't want to talk about that, which tells me that it's the thing I need to talk about,
Yeah,
was
okay.
always the way. Writing. I've loved to write since I was a kid, and at school, and I always got really good feedback on the creative writing side of things. Throughout my education, I got good feedback on the way I wrote essays and so on. In my professional life, emails and reports, again, it was always positive feedback. I've always enjoyed writing. And one of the reasons when I started my coaching business, I knew I had to have a website because there are varied opinions as to whether or not you need one. I knew I wanted one because I wanted to be able to write a blog, but I rarely do, very
Mm,
rarely. And what's going on there? I think it's a fear of living up to expectations, probably my own. That vulnerability around what if the one thing I've always dared to think I'm any good at, it turns out I'm not, and people don't like it. And so my conclusion is that I need a coaching session.
I was thinking this is very ripe stuff to talk about with a coach.
Yeah, I mean, and that I use coaching in that way. I go through phases where I'm in a sort of a defined relationship with a coach for several weeks or whatever it is of regular sessions. I go through phases where I am not currently engaged in being coached. And then I go through phases where I book ad hoc sessions when things like that come up. I think I am just struggling a bit or I'm a bit stuck. There's something I need to work through. And I find that a really useful way of doing it. Again, it doesn't have to be that big upfront
Mm,
financial commitment or time commitment. You can do it in ways that work for you and fit in for you. And it always helps. Always.
yeah. And there are so many coaches out there. You can find somebody that feels like a good fit for you. I would say have conversations with people is one of the best ways just to find out, does this feel right? And if it doesn't, you can say no. I think that's
Absolutely.
absolutely fine to do that. It's much better for you and the coach that you feel like this is a good match. This is someone I think I can talk to and find out this uncomfortable stuff or get the uncomfortable stuff out. I call it sometimes unpacking. You get your suitcase, out comes all the uncomfortable stuff but you just accept that it's there. You can have a look at it and you can decide what goes back in the case and what needs to be thrown away and all the other things.
Yeah,
Um,
and
and there'll
different
be the right
coaching
person out
styles.
there.
There are very different coaching styles and approaches, and you might even find that different ones suit you at different times and in different contexts.
Mm, yeah, absolutely.
And on that note, thank you very much for listening. I feel sure this will not be our last episode on coaching because we just love talking about it. And if you have any questions or would like to know anything further about coaching, please feel free to get in touch with one of us. Our details are in the show notes. And yeah, you can do that. No charge, no pressure, definitely no obligation. Until next time, keep being perfectly you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Mission Imperfect.
Please visit the show notes for details on how to contact us and for any resources we may have on the topic discussed.
Until next time, keep being imperfectly you. No one does it better.